The November wind cut through the Colorado mountains like a blade, carrying with it the promise of an early winter. Jackson "Hawk" Mercer tightened his grip on the handlebars of his Harley-Davidson Road King, his weathered hands steady despite the 40-degree temperature. Behind him, 11 other motorcycles rumbled in formation, their chrome gleaming under the pale afternoon sun as they carved through the curves of Interstate 70. The Iron Brotherhood had been riding since dawn, their annual Veterans fundraising run taking them from Denver to Grand Junction, a 250-mile journey through some of the most breathtaking and unforgiving terrain in the Rockies. Jackson, at 48, had led this club for 6 years, transforming what had once been his personal escape from grief into something meaningful, a brotherhood dedicated to helping veterans transition back to civilian life. The leather patches on his vest told his story without words. Army Ranger, 2 tours in Afghanistan, Purple Heart recipient. But the most painful chapter wasn't written anywhere visible. The loss of his daughter, Melissa, 3 years ago, to a fentanyl overdose at 17. She'd been trying to numb the pain of her mother's death from cancer 2 years prior. Jackson had found her in her bedroom, and that image haunted him every single day. Vincent Caldwell, the club's vice president, pulled up alongside Jackson as they approached the Georgetown exit. At 52, Vincent was the steadiest man Jackson knew. A mechanic by trade, a philosopher by nature, and a friend who understood that sometimes silence spoke louder than words. He gestured toward the rest area sign. Jackson nodded. They'd been riding for 3 hours straight, and the group needed a break. The rest area was nearly deserted. Just a few passenger cars and a weathered semi-truck with a refrigerated trailer parked at the far end of the lot. The motorcycles lined up in their usual precise formation, engines cutting off one by one until only the mountain wind remained, howling through the pine trees that bordered the facility. 15 minutes, Jackson announced, his voice gruff from the cold. Check your bikes, stretch your legs. We've got another 2 hours before Vail. Douglas "Tank" Armstrong, a retired Army medic who'd served with Jackson in Kandahar, headed toward the restrooms. Tank was built like his nickname suggested, 6'4", 260 pounds of muscle, with a gray beard that reached mid-chest. Despite his intimidating appearance, he was the gentlest soul Jackson had ever known, which was why Tank ran a free clinic for homeless veterans every Saturday in his garage. Jackson walked to the edge of the parking lot, looking out over the canyon that dropped away beyond the guardrail. The peaks in the distance were already snow-capped, their white crowns brilliant against the darkening sky. He pulled out his phone. No signal. That was common up here in the mountains. He was about to head back to his bike when he heard it. A sound, faint, almost imperceptible beneath the wind. He stopped, tilting his head. There it was again, a rhythmic banging, muffled and desperate, coming from somewhere across the parking lot. "Vincent," Jackson called. His vice president looked up from checking his tire pressure. "You hear that?" Vincent straightened, listening. The banging came again, 3 slow thuds, followed by rapid knocking. It was coming from the semi-truck. The 2 men exchanged a glance and started walking toward the truck. As they got closer, the sound became clearer. Someone was pounding on metal from inside the refrigerated trailer. The truck itself looked abandoned, flat tire on the driver's side, mud splattered across the license plate, and the cab was empty. "Hello?" Jackson shouted, approaching the back of the trailer. The pounding stopped abruptly, then resumed with renewed desperation. "Someone's in there," Vincent said, his voice tight. Jackson tried the trailer door, locked with a heavy-duty padlock. "We need bolt cutters. Tank, get the toolkit from my bike." Tank was already running. The other club members had noticed the commotion and were gathering around. Raymond Foster, Marcus Bennett, and Kyle Henderson. All veterans, all men who understood that when someone was in trouble, you didn't ask questions first. The pounding inside grew weaker, more erratic. "Hang on!" Jackson yelled. "We're getting you out!" Tank returned with the bolt cutters. Jackson positioned them on the padlock and squeezed with all his strength. The lock held. He tried again, his muscles straining, and on the third attempt, the shackle finally snapped. Jackson pulled open the heavy door, and a wave of frigid air rolled out, even colder than the mountain wind. Inside the dark trailer, huddled in the corner among empty wooden crates, was a teenage girl. She was shaking violently, her lips blue, her dark hair matted with ice crystals. She wore only jeans, a thin t-shirt, and a jacket that looked like it had been soaked and then frozen. Her arms were wrapped around herself, and when she looked up at them, her eyes were glassy with hypothermia and terror. "Please," she whispered through chattering teeth. "Please don't hurt me." Tank pushed past Jackson, his medic training kicking in immediately. "Nobody's going to hurt you, sweetheart. We're here to help. How long have you been in here?" The girl tried to speak, but couldn't form words. Her whole body was seizing with cold. "Severe hypothermia," Tank announced. "We need to get her warm now. Jackson, call 911. No signal. Then someone needs to drive down the mountain until they get bars. Vincent, on it!" Vincent was already sprinting toward his bike. Tank carefully lifted the girl out of the trailer. She couldn't support her own weight. "Someone give me jackets, blankets, anything warm." The Iron Brotherhood moved as one unit. Within seconds, the girl was wrapped in leather jackets and emergency blankets from their saddlebags. Tank carried her to the heated building that housed the restrooms, the club forming a protective circle around them. Inside the small lobby, Tank laid her on the floor, continuing to check her vital signs. "Pulse is weak but present. We need warm, not hot, water. Someone wet some paper towels with warm water." Jackson knelt beside the girl, whose eyes were starting to focus slightly. "What's your name?" "Tori," she managed. "Victoria, Henderson." "Victoria, I'm Jackson. You're safe now. Can you tell me what happened?" Her eyes filled with tears that immediately froze on her lashes. He locked me in, said he'd come back. Been so long, I thought I was going to die." "Who locked you in?" But Tori's eyes were closing. Tank tapped her cheek gently. "Stay with us, Victoria. Stay awake. How long were you in that trailer?" Since yesterday morning. No, night before. I don't remember." Jackson's jaw clenched. 18 hours, maybe more. The temperature in that trailer had probably been well below freezing. Raymond Foster, who'd been checking the truck, returned with a grim expression. "Cabs wiped clean, no registration in the glove box, plates are stolen. This was intentional." "She was kidnapped," Tank said flatly, continuing to rub Victoria's arms and legs to stimulate circulation. "Look at her wrists." Jackson saw them then. The raw marks, the bruising that suggested she'd been restrained. The sound of a motorcycle approaching at high speed announced Vincent's return. He burst through the door. "Ambulance is coming, 20 minutes. I also called the state police. They're sending someone from the Georgetown station." 20 minutes. Jackson looked at the girl, at Tori, and saw his daughter. Saw Melissa at 16, lost and hurting and looking for someone to save her. He'd failed then. He wouldn't fail now. "You're going to be okay," he told Tori, his voice steady and sure. "I promise you, you're going to be okay." Tori's hand reached out from beneath the pile of jackets and grabbed Jackson's wrist with surprising strength. "Don't let him find me," she pleaded. "Please, he'll kill me." He said, "If I ever tried to run again." "Again?" Tank interrupted. "This isn't the first time?" Tori's face crumpled and sobs racked her small frame. "I ran from the group home 3 days ago. He found me at the bus station in Denver, said he'd get me to California, said he'd help me. But then he... She couldn't finish. She didn't need to. Jackson's blood ran cold, not from the temperature, but from the horrifying picture forming in his mind. Human trafficking. That's what this was. "Listen to me, Victoria," Jackson said, his voice low and intense. "That man is not going to find you. My brothers and I, We're not leaving your side until you're safe. You understand? Not for 1 second. The Iron Brotherhood members gathered closer, their intimidating presence now a shield rather than a threat. These men, veterans who'd seen the worst of humanity and still chose to fight for the good, formed a wall around this broken girl. "Why were you running from the group home?" Tank asked gently, still monitoring her pulse. Tori's eyes darted away. I couldn't stay there anymore." "Were you being hurt there too?" Silence. Then a barely perceptible nod. Jackson felt rage building in his chest, the same fury he'd felt on the battlefield when facing true evil. "How old are you, Victoria?" 16, almost 17. 16. Melissa's age when she died. The distant wail of sirens finally reached them. Help was coming, but as Jackson looked at this girl, this child who'd survived something unimaginable, he knew that medical treatment would only address the physical wounds. The emotional and psychological trauma would take much longer to heal, if it ever healed at all. Tori's eyes were closing again, and this time Tank didn't stop her. Let her rest. Her body needs to conserve energy. As they waited for the ambulance, Jackson noticed something that made his heart sink even further. Tori's thin t-shirt had ridden up slightly, revealing her abdomen. She was pregnant. Not obviously, but there was a small, unmistakable curve. Tank saw it too, and the two men's eyes met. Tank gave an almost imperceptible nod. He'd noticed. The ambulance arrived with the Colorado State Police right behind. Paramedics rushed in, taking over Tori's care with practiced efficiency. An officer, a stern-looking woman in her 40s with sharp eyes, began asking questions. "Detective Caroline Mitchell," she introduced herself, showing her badge. "I'm with the Crimes Against Children Division. Someone want to tell me what happened here?" Jackson explained everything. The sound, the locked trailer, Tori's condition, and what little she'd told them about being kidnapped. Detective Mitchell's expression grew darker with each detail. "This rest area has been a known spot for trafficking routes. We've been trying to patrol it more heavily, but..." She shook her head. "This girl is lucky you came along." "Luck had nothing to do with it," Vincent said quietly. "That was divine intervention." The paramedics were loading Tori onto a stretcher. She was conscious again, her eyes wide and frightened as she searched the crowd. When she found Jackson, she reached out her hand. He moved to her side immediately. "I'm right here." "Don't leave me," she begged. "Please don't leave me alone." "Which hospital?" Jackson asked the paramedic. "St. Anthony's in Lakewood." "We'll follow you there," Jackson told Tori. "I give you my word, you won't be alone." Detective Mitchell raised an eyebrow. "You family?" "No, ma'am." "Then I'm afraid, then I'll be in the waiting room," Jackson interrupted firmly. "For as long as it takes." The detective studied him for a long moment, taking in the veteran patches, the Iron Brotherhood insignia, the weathered face of a man who'd seen too much loss. Finally, she nodded. "I'll need statements from all of you anyway." "We can do it at the hospital." As the ambulance pulled away, lights flashing, the Iron Brotherhood stood in the parking lot, their fundraising ride completely forgotten. "Brothers," Jackson said, his voice carrying authority, "we've got a new mission. That girl in there, she needs protection, support, and probably a whole lot more than we can fully understand right now. But we can start by making sure she knows she's not alone. Anyone who can't commit to that can head home now. No judgment." Not a single man moved. Vincent clasped Jackson's shoulder. "Where you lead, we follow. You know that." Tank nodded. "That girl survived something that should have killed her. There's a reason she's still here, and a reason we found her. We see this through." The others voiced their agreement. Raymond, Marcus, Kyle, and the rest, all in. "Then let's ride," Jackson said, swinging his leg over his Harley. "We've got a promise to keep." The 12 motorcycles started their engines in unison. the thunder of their departure echoing off the mountain walls as they headed down the interstate toward Lakewood, toward St. Anthony's Hospital, toward a girl who'd called out in desperation and, against all odds, been heard. What none of them knew yet was that this rescue was only the beginning. The real battle, for justice, for healing, for redemption, was still ahead. St. Anthony's Hospital in Lakewood was a sprawling complex that rose against the Denver skyline like a fortress of healing. By the time the Iron Brotherhood arrived, the sun had set completely, and the temperature had dropped another 10 degrees. The 12 motorcycles filled a section of the visitor parking lot, their chrome catching the harsh glow of the parking lot lights. Jackson walked through the emergency room entrance with Tank and Vincent flanking him. The remaining club members spread out, some heading to the cafeteria for coffee, others staying with the bikes. They'd learned long ago that a large group of leather-wearing bikers showing up together could intimidate hospital staff, which was counterproductive. The ER waiting room was crowded, crying children, elderly patients, a man holding his bandaged hand, and in the corner, Detective Caroline Mitchell talking on her phone. She spotted Jackson and ended her call. "She's stable," the detective said without preamble. "Severe hypothermia, dehydration, malnutrition. They're warming her slowly, running IV fluids. She's going to make it physically." "Physically," Jackson repeated, catching the implication. "Mr. Mercer, I need to be direct with you. Victoria Henderson has been in the foster care system since she was 11. Both parents died in a car accident. She's been bounced between 6 different homes and 2 group facilities. 3 months ago, she ran away from the Morrison Group Home for Girls, claiming abuse. Social services investigated, but found insufficient evidence." "Insufficient evidence," Vincent said, his voice hard. "That's bureaucracy speak for we didn't look hard enough." Detective Mitchell's expression tightened. "I won't argue with you. The system failed her. She disappeared for 2 weeks, then resurfaced at a homeless shelter in Colorado Springs. She was returned to Morrison and apparently ran again 3 days ago. And got picked up by a trafficker," Jackson finished. "We're working on identifying him. I've got people pulling surveillance footage from the Denver bus station. We'll find him." The detective paused. "There's something else. The doctors confirmed she's pregnant. About 16 weeks. Tank closed his eyes. Vincent cursed under his breath. Jackson felt his fists clench. "Does she know?" Jackson asked. "She knows. The doctors said she's been aware for at least a month. That's probably part of why she ran." "Was it the trafficker?" "No. Timeline doesn't match. This happened before she ran the second time. She won't say who the father is, but given the abuse allegations at the group home." Detective Mitchell left the implication hanging. Jackson felt sick. This child had been failed by every system meant to protect her. Parents dead, foster care abusive, pregnant from what was likely assault, kidnapped and nearly murdered. "What happens to her now?" Vincent asked. "After she's medically cleared?" "Social services will place her back in the system, probably a different facility given the circumstances, but..." "No." The word came out of Jackson's mouth before he could think it through. Detective Mitchell raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me?" "I said no. She's not going back into that system, not after what they put her through. Mr. Mercer, I understand you feel protective, but you can't just... I can foster her." The words hung in the air. Tank and Vincent both turned to stare at Jackson. "You don't even know this girl," Detective Mitchell said carefully. "And foster certification takes months of background checks, home studies, training. I'm a veteran with an honorable discharge, no criminal record, and a 4-bedroom house in Littleton with a paid-off mortgage. I've been through more background checks than most people endure in a lifetime. My daughter died 3 years ago. I know what it's like when the system fails a kid." "Jackson," Tank said quietly, "are you sure about this?" "I've never been more sure of anything in my life." Detective Mitchell studied him for a long moment. It's not that simple. Emergency foster placement requires approval from the Department of Human Services. They'll want to know why a single man with no fostering experience wants to take in a traumatized, pregnant teenage girl he just met. Because she asked me not to leave her alone, and I gave her my word. Something shifted in the detective's expression. A flicker of respect, or perhaps recognition of someone who understood that promises mattered. I'll make some calls. But even if I can expedite this, you're looking at weeks, not days. And there's no guarantee they'll approve you. Then what happens to her in the meantime? Temporary shelter placement. We have a secure facility for at-risk youth. It's not ideal, but it's safe. Can I see her? She's still in the ER, but they're about to move her to a room. Family only right now. I'm the only family she's got who's here. Detective Mitchell considered this. Finally, she nodded. 10 minutes, room 4. And Mr. Mercer? Don't make promises you can't keep. Jackson found room 4 behind a pulled curtain. Inside, Tori lay in a hospital bed, covered in heated blankets, an IV in each arm. Her dark hair had been cleaned and was now spread across the pillow. Without the grime and ice, he could see she was actually quite pretty. Or would be, once the hollowness left her cheeks and the dark circles faded from under her eyes. Her eyes opened when she heard him enter. Relief flooded her face. You came. I told you I would. Jackson pulled a chair close to the bed. How are you feeling? Warmer. Tired. They gave me something for the pain. Her hand moved to her stomach in an unconscious protective gesture. They told you, didn't they? About the baby. They did. Tears welled in her eyes. I know what you're thinking. That I'm stupid. That I got myself into this mess. I'm thinking that you're a survivor, and that takes more courage than most people ever have to find. Tori bit her lip, tears spilling over. The counselor at the group home, Mr. Patterson, he said he was helping me, that the sessions were confidential. He said it was normal, that I was special, and I believed him because nobody ever said I was special before. Jackson's jaw clenched so hard his teeth hurt. What's his full name? Richard Patterson, but nobody will believe me. I tried to tell the house supervisor, Mrs. Kowalski, and she said I was making it up for attention, that Mr. Patterson had a wife and kids and would never do something like that. So I ran, and the trafficker found you. His name was Derek. I don't know his last name. He was at the bus station, really nice at first. Bought me food. Said he had a cousin in San Diego who ran a restaurant and could get me a job. I was so hungry and scared, and he seemed... She shook her head. I'm an idiot. You're 16 and alone. You're not an idiot. You were desperate. There's a difference. He drove for hours, then he stopped at this motel and he told me what he really wanted, what I'd have to do to pay for his help. When I said no, he hit me, locked me in the bathroom. I climbed out the window and ran, but he caught me. That's when he put me in the trailer, said he'd figure out what to do with me later, that nobody would miss a runaway foster kid anyway. Her voice broke. And he was right. Nobody was looking for me. We found you, Jackson said firmly. You're not invisible, Victoria. You matter. Tori. Nobody calls me Victoria, except social workers and police. Tori, then. Jackson leaned forward. I want to ask you something, and I need you to really think about it. The detective says you'll have to go to a temporary shelter when you're released from here, but I'm going to try to get approved as an emergency foster parent for you. It's going to take some time, and there's no guarantee it'll work, but I'm going to try. Tori stared at him. Why would you do that? You don't even know me. Because when I opened that trailer and saw you, I saw my daughter. Her name was Melissa, and she died 3 years ago. She was 17, lost and hurting, and I didn't save her. But I can help you, if you'll let me. I'm pregnant. I know. With a baby I didn't want and don't know if I can love. That's fair. Nobody says you have to have it all figured out right now. Tori was quiet for a long moment. What if I'm too broken? What if I can't be fixed? Then we'll be broken together until we figure out how to be whole again. More tears fell, but these seemed different. Not despair, but something tentatively hopeful. Okay. If you can get approved, I'll stay with you. But Mr. Mercer, Jackson, just Jackson. Jackson, I don't know how to be around people anymore. I don't trust anyone. I have nightmares. I get angry for no reason. I'm probably going to be terrible at this. I have nightmares too, from Afghanistan. And I get angry at the world for taking my daughter, so we'll figure it out together. He stood to leave. Get some rest. I'll be in the waiting room if you need anything. Jackson, she caught his hand. Thank you for not leaving. I gave you my word. As Jackson returned to the waiting room, he found Vincent and Tank deep in conversation with Detective Mitchell. They looked up when he approached. I made some calls, the detective said. You've got an advocate in Rachel Brennan. She's a social worker who specializes in trafficking victims. She's reviewing your case for emergency placement, but she wants to meet you tomorrow. Can you be at the DHS office at 9? I'll be there. Mr. Mercer, I'm going to be blunt. This is unusual. Single men rarely get approved for foster care, especially for teenage girls. The optics alone make people nervous. You're going to face scrutiny. They'll want to know your motivations, your background, your support system. I have a support system, Jackson said, gesturing to Vincent and Tank. The entire Iron Brotherhood. 12 veterans who know what it means to have each other's backs. Tank stepped forward. I'm a retired Army medic. I run a free clinic. I can provide medical support and counseling references. Vincent nodded. I own Caldwell's Auto Repair. I can offer job training if she wants it later. And my wife, Patricia, has been a labor and delivery nurse for 20 years. She can help with the pregnancy stuff. Detective Mitchell's expression softened slightly. Write all that down. Include names, phone numbers, references. The more support structure you can show, the better your chances. She handed Jackson her card. I'll be in touch. And Mr. Mercer, I hope this works out. That girl deserves someone who actually gives a damn. After the detective left, Tank and Vincent walked Jackson out to the parking lot where the rest of the club waited. Brothers, Jackson addressed them, I need to tell you what I'm planning. He explained everything, the foster care application, Tori's pregnancy, the abuse she'd suffered, his commitment to seeing this through. This isn't a weekend project, Raymond Foster said. You're talking about taking responsibility for a traumatized kid and her baby. That's years, not months. I know what I'm signing up for. Kyle Henderson, the youngest member at 32, cleared his throat. My sister was in foster care for a while. It was hell. If you can give this girl a safe place, then the club's behind you. What do you need? References, support, maybe some help fixing up the extra bedroom, and if this works out, patience. Lots of patience. You've got it, Vincent said, and the others echoed their agreement. As the club dispersed, some heading home, others grabbing hotels nearby, Jackson returned to the hospital alone. He found a chair in the waiting room, intending to keep his promise to stay close. Around midnight, a nurse approached him. Are you Jackson Mercer? He stood. Is Tori okay? She's fine. She's awake and asking for you. Jackson followed the nurse back to Tori's room. She'd been moved to the pediatric wing, which felt both appropriate and heartbreaking. Can't sleep? Jackson asked, settling into the chair beside her bed. Nightmares, Tori admitted. The cold, being locked in. I keep waking up thinking I'm back in that trailer. That's normal. Those nightmares might stick around for a while, but they do get better eventually. How long did yours take? From Afghanistan? Still working on it, but they're less frequent now. Tori pulled her blanket tighter. Can I ask you something? Anything. Your daughter, Melissa, what was she like? Jackson pulled out his wallet and extracted a worn photo. Melissa at 16, grinning at the camera, her blonde hair in braids, wearing her high school soccer uniform. He handed it to Tori. She was brave, funny, terrible at math, but could write poetry that made you cry. She loved soccer and hated vegetables and wanted to be a veterinarian. His voice caught. She struggled after her mum died. Started hanging out with the wrong crowd. I tried to help, but I was dealing with my own grief and I missed the signs. By the time I realized how bad things had gotten, she was already addicted. To what? Started with pills, ended with fentanyl. She overdosed in her bedroom while I was downstairs watching television. The doctor said she was dead before she hit the floor. I'm sorry. Me too. Every single day. Jackson looked at Tori. But here's the thing. I can't save her. She's gone. But maybe if I can help you, it'll mean something. Maybe it'll make her death count for something more than just pain. Tori handed the photo back. She was pretty. She was. You remind me of her, actually. Not in looks, but in that thing behind your eyes. That fight. That refusal to give up even when everything says you should. I don't feel like a fighter. The strongest fighters never do. They just keep going because stopping isn't an option. Tori was quiet for a moment. Jackson, if this foster thing works out, I don't want to get rid of the baby. Okay. I mean, I know everyone will say I should, that I'm too young, that it'll ruin my life, that I can't handle it. And maybe they're right. But this baby didn't ask to be here, you know, and it's not its fault how it was made. So if I keep it, would that be okay with you? Jackson felt something crack open in his chest, a door he thought had been sealed shut when Melissa died. If you want to keep your baby, we'll figure it out, together. Promise? I promise. Tori finally smiled, small, tentative, but real. Thank you. She fell asleep shortly after, her breathing evening out into the rhythm of someone finally feeling safe enough to rest. Jackson stayed in the chair all night, keeping watch, keeping his promise. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, meetings with social workers, background checks, paperwork, and scrutiny. But tonight, a girl who'd been left to die in a freezing trailer was warm, safe, and not alone. And for Jackson Mercer, that was enough. The Colorado Department of Human Services building was an imposing structure of concrete and glass in downtown Denver, designed to be functional rather than welcoming. Jackson arrived at 8:45, wearing clean jeans, a button-down shirt, and his leather vest. Cleaned and bearing his military patches prominently. He debated leaving the vest at home, but ultimately decided that hiding who he was wouldn't serve anyone. Tank and Vincent waited in the parking lot. "We'll be right here if you need us," Tank had said, and Jackson drew strength from knowing his brothers had his back. Rachel Brennan met him in the lobby at precisely 9 o'clock. She was 38, with kind eyes and an air of someone who'd seen too much suffering, but refused to become hardened by it. "Mr. Mercer, thank you for coming. Let's talk in my office." Her office was small but personal, filled with photos of children she'd helped, art projects, and a shelf of well-worn books on trauma and healing. She gestured to a chair across from her desk. "I've reviewed your preliminary information," Rachel began, pulling up a file on her computer. "Army Ranger, honorable discharge, Purple Heart recipient, homeowner, no criminal record, stable income from your contracting business, and military disability. On paper, you look good. But emergency foster placement for a teenage girl by a single male is extremely rare. The system is designed to protect vulnerable children, and statistically, that means we have to be cautious. I need to understand your motivations." Jackson had prepared for this. 3 years ago, my 17-year-old daughter died from a drug overdose. I missed the signs. I was so caught up in my own grief after losing my wife that I didn't see how much Melissa was hurting until it was too late. I can't change that. But when I found Tori in that trailer, when she asked me not to leave her alone, I saw a chance to honor my daughter's memory by helping a girl who needs someone to actually show up. Rachel listened without interrupting. What do you know about trauma-informed care? I know what PTSD looks like because I have it. I know that trust has to be earned. I know that healing isn't linear. And I know that sometimes just showing up consistently matters more than having all the answers. Do you have experience with teenage girls? I raised one for 17 years. I know it's not the same situation, but I understand that teenage girls need privacy, respect, and someone who listens without judgment. Rachel made notes. Tori is pregnant, about 17 weeks now. She's expressed desire to keep the baby. Are you prepared to support a teenage mother and an infant? The Iron Brotherhood has resources. Tank, Douglas Armstrong, is a retired Army medic who runs a clinic. Vincent Caldwell's wife is an L&D nurse. We have members who can help with childcare, job training, emotional support. This isn't just me, it's a whole community. Tell me about the Iron Brotherhood. Jackson explained the club's history, their veteran outreach programs, their fundraising rides, the support network they'd built for returning soldiers struggling with civilian life. Rachel leaned back in her chair. I'm going to be honest with you, Mr. Mercer. This is highly irregular, but I've worked with trafficking victims for 12 years, and I know that what they need most is someone who's committed and consistent. Tori has been in 6 foster homes. She's been failed repeatedly. If I approve this emergency placement, you cannot change your mind. You cannot decide it's too hard or too complicated. You'll be committing to seeing this through until she ages out of the system, or longer if she needs continued support. I understand. Do you? Because this girl is going to test you. She's going to push boundaries, act out, possibly run. Trauma doesn't heal overnight. She might not trust you for months. She might never fully trust you. Can you handle that? Jackson met her eyes. After Afghanistan, I couldn't sleep without nightmares. I pushed everyone away. I drank too much. My brothers in the Iron Brotherhood didn't give up on me even when I wanted them to. They showed up, consistently, until I was ready to accept help. So yes, I can handle it, because I know what it's like to be the one who needs someone to not give up. Rachel studied him for a long moment. I'm going to approve a 2-week emergency placement. During that time, I'll do a full home study, interview your references, and monitor how Tori adjusts. If everything checks out, we'll move to longer-term foster certification. But Mr. Mercer, if I see any red flags, any at all, I'll remove her immediately. Understood? Understood. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. The hard part starts now. Rachel printed several documents. Sign these. They authorize you for temporary placement, outline your responsibilities, and acknowledge that DHS can do unannounced visits at any time. I'll need 3 personal references, not family, who can speak to your character. Jackson provided Tank's information, Vincent's, and added Kyle Henderson, who worked as a guidance counselor at a high school and had known Jackson for 8 years. When can she come home? Jackson asked. Hospital's releasing her today. I'll coordinate with them and have her ready by this afternoon. You'll need to have a private bedroom prepared for her with a lock on the inside. Only she can control access to her space. Understand why that's important? She needs to feel safe and in control. Exactly. I'll also be referring her to Dr. Samantha Price, a therapist who specializes in trauma and adolescent pregnancy. Tori must attend weekly sessions. That's non-negotiable. Not a problem. Rachel handed him a packet of information. Read this. It covers trauma responses, triggers to watch for, resources for pregnant teens, and emergency contacts. I'll visit your home tomorrow to ensure it meets safety requirements. And Mr. Mercer, thank you for stepping up. I hope this works out. Jackson left the building with the paperwork and a strange mix of terror and purpose. He'd just committed to caring for a traumatized, pregnant 16-year-old girl he'd known for less than 24 hours. It was insane. It was also the rightest thing he'd done since Melissa died. Back in the parking lot, Vincent and Tank were waiting. Jackson filled them in. "So we have until this afternoon to get a bedroom ready," Vincent said. "Let's go." Jackson's house in Littleton was a modest ranch-style home in a quiet neighborhood. 3 bedrooms, plus a converted 4th, big backyard, and a detached garage he used as a workshop. Melissa's room had been untouched since her death, a shrine he couldn't bring himself to dismantle. But the guest room was available. Vincent, Tank, and 4 other club members descended on the house like a well-organized construction crew. Within hours, they'd deep-cleaned the room, assembled a new bed frame, hung curtains, added a nightstand and lamp, installed a keyed lock on the inside of the door, and stocked the attached bathroom with toiletries. Patricia Caldwell, Vincent's wife, arrived with bags from Target. "Clothes," she explained. "I guessed size small. Maternity stuff too, just basics. And this." She held up a weighted blanket. "It helps with anxiety and nightmares. I use one myself." By 2 o'clock, the room looked welcoming without being childish. Neutral colors, soft textures, and a clear message that this space belonged to whoever occupied it. Rachel Brennan called at 3. "We're ready. Are you?" "Yes, ma'am." "St. Anthony's room 302. I'll meet you there." Jackson drove alone, using the quiet time to center himself. He'd led men in combat, started a business, and survived crushing grief. He could do this. At the hospital, he found Tori dressed in donated clothes from the hospital's supply closet. Jeans too big, a sweatshirt that swallowed her small frame. She was signing discharge papers, her hand shaking slightly. Rachel was there, reviewing documents with a nurse. When she saw Jackson, she nodded. "Everything's in order. Tori, you'll be staying with Mr. Mercer under emergency foster placement. I'll be visiting tomorrow to check on you, and you have your first therapy appointment with Dr. Price on Thursday. Questions?" Tori looked at Jackson. "Is this really happening?" "It's really happening. Let's go home." The drive to Littleton was quiet. Tori stared out the window, watching the landscape change from urban Denver to suburban neighborhoods. When they pulled up to Jackson's house, she finally spoke. "This is yours." "It's ours now. Come on, I'll show you your room." Inside, Tori stood in the living room, looking around at the worn leather furniture, the Afghanistan deployment photos on the wall, the shelf full of books. "It's clean." Jackson realized she'd probably never lived anywhere truly clean and maintained. "The guys helped me get your room ready. It's back this way." He led her down the hall, past Melissa's closed door, to the guest room. When he opened the door, Tori froze. "This is for me?" "All yours. The bathroom's through there. There's a lock on the inside of the door. Only you have the key. Your space, your rules." Tori walked in slowly, touching the bedspread, the curtains, the weighted blanket folded at the foot of the bed. She opened the closet and found the clothes Patricia had bought. "I don't understand," she said quietly. "Why are you doing this?" "Because you need a safe place, and I have one to offer." She sat on the bed, running her hands over the soft comforter. "I've never had my own room before. In foster care, it was always shared. 3 or 4 girls in bunk beds. Well, now you do. House rules are simple. Be respectful, communicate if you're struggling, and show up for your therapy appointments. Otherwise, you're free to use the kitchen, living room, backyard, whatever you need. I work from my office in the garage most days, so I'm around if you need anything. What if I mess up? Then we figure it out together. I'm not looking for perfection, Tori. I'm just looking for honest effort." She nodded, tears threatening. Can I have some time alone?" "Of course. I'll be in the kitchen if you need me." Jackson left her to explore her new space. In the kitchen, he started preparing dinner. Nothing fancy, just spaghetti and salad. He figured simple food was a safe bet. He'd just set water to boil when he heard a sound from Tori's room, crying. Not loud, but deep and wrenching. Every instinct told him to go check on her, but he remembered Rachel's advice. Give her space to process. Let her come to you. So he stayed in the kitchen and cooked, letting her know through actions that he was there when she was ready. 20 minutes later, Tori emerged, her eyes red but her expression calmer. Something smells good. Spaghetti. You like Italian? I like food. She sat at the kitchen table. At the group home, meals were timed. If you weren't there exactly when they served, you didn't eat. Here, you eat when you're hungry. Help yourself to anything in the fridge. I'll show you where everything is after dinner. They ate in comfortable silence. Tori was clearly starving, going back for seconds and then thirds. Jackson didn't comment, just kept refilling her plate. After dinner, she helped clean up without being asked. Ingrained survival behavior from the system. Jackson showed her around the house, pointing out snacks, her laundry room access, the television remote. What time do I need to be up? Tori asked. No set time, sleep as late as you want. We'll figure out a routine as we go. You're not going to make me go to school right away. Rachel said you're officially excused until after Thanksgiving. That gives us a couple weeks to get you settled. When you do go back, we'll find a school with good support services. Tori looked overwhelmed. This doesn't feel real. I know, but it is. You're safe here, Tori. I promise. That night, Jackson lay in his own bed, listening to the unfamiliar sounds of someone else in the house. Around midnight, he heard Tori's door open, heard her check that the front door was locked, then heard her door close again. She was checking exits, making sure she wasn't trapped. It broke his heart and made him more determined than ever to show her that not all doors were cages. The first week was an exercise in patience and observation. Tori moved through the house like a ghost, quiet and hypervigilant, always positioning herself with her back to walls and her eyes on exits. She ate whatever Jackson put in front of her, but never asked for anything. She spent hours in her room with the door closed. She slept fitfully. Jackson could hear her pacing at night. Rachel Brennan visited on Wednesday for the home inspection. She interviewed Tori privately, checked the bedroom setup, and spoke with Jackson about his observations. She's scared, Jackson reported. Won't relax, barely talks. That's normal. Give her time. How are you holding up? I'm fine. It's just strange having someone here again after so long. You lost your wife 4 years ago, your daughter 3 years ago. This must be stirring up a lot of emotions. Every day. But I knew it would. Rachel approved the home for continued placement and scheduled the next check-in for the following week. Thursday brought the first therapy session with Dr. Samantha Price. Tori was resistant, claiming she didn't need to talk to a stranger about her problems. Jackson didn't argue, just drove her to the appointment. I'll be in the waiting room, he told her. Take your time. The session lasted 90 minutes. Tori emerged looking exhausted, but slightly less tense. How was it? Jackson asked carefully. She's okay, I guess. Asked a lot of questions. Did you answer them? Some. It was progress. Friday, Jackson woke to find Tori in the kitchen, attempting to make breakfast. She'd burned the eggs and underdone the toast, but the effort was touching. Morning, he said. What's all this? You've been cooking for me all week. Thought I should help. She looked embarrassed. I'm not very good at it. You want to learn? I can teach you. They spent the morning in the kitchen, Jackson patiently showing her how to crack eggs without getting shells, how to adjust heat, how to tell when food was done. Tori was a quick study, and by lunchtime, she'd successfully made them both grilled cheese sandwiches. I did it, she said, genuine surprise in her voice. You did. Natural talent. That afternoon, Vincent stopped by with his wife, Patricia. Tori was wary at first, but Patricia's warm, no-nonsense demeanor seemed to ease her. I brought you something, Patricia said, handing Tori a bag. Inside were prenatal vitamins, pregnancy books, and a journal. I know this whole pregnancy thing probably feels overwhelming. These books helped me when I was expecting my kids, and the journal, sometimes writing things down, helps. Thank you, Tori said quietly. How are you feeling physically? Patricia asked. Any morning sickness? Some. Mostly I'm just tired. That's the second trimester. Your body's doing a lot of work. Make sure you're eating enough protein and taking those vitamins daily. And if you ever want to talk about the pregnancy, about anything, I'm available. No judgment, no pressure. After they left, Tori actually sought Jackson out. They're nice, your friends. They're good people, and they're here for you too, not just me. Why? Because that's what family does. And the Iron Brotherhood is family. Saturday brought another milestone. Tori asked if she could sit in the backyard. Jackson gave her space, watching from the kitchen window as she sat on the porch steps, face turned toward the sun. 20 minutes later, she came back inside. It's nice out there. Feel free to use the yard whenever you want. It's your space too. Sunday, Detective Mitchell called. They'd identified the trafficker, Derek Sutton, a 34-year-old with multiple warrants across 3 states. He'd been arrested in New Mexico trying to cross into Mexico. He'd be extradited to Colorado to face charges. Jackson relayed the information to Tori that evening. She went very still. He can't hurt me anymore? He'll be in prison for a very long time. What about Mr. Patterson, the counselor from the group home? Detective Mitchell is investigating. They need evidence, but they're building a case. Tori nodded slowly. Good. The second week brought new challenges. Tori's nightmares intensified. Jackson would hear her crying out in her sleep, but when he knocked to check on her, she'd insist she was fine. On Tuesday night, he heard a crash. He rushed to her room. Tori, are you okay? Don't come in. Her voice was panicked. I won't. I'm just standing in the hall. Talk to me. Silence. Then I knocked over the lamp. I'm sorry, I'll replace it. I don't care about the lamp. Are you hurt? No, I had a nightmare about the trailer. I woke up and forgot where I was and knocked everything over trying to find the door. Can I turn on the hall light so you can see better? Okay. Jackson flipped the light switch, letting soft illumination spill under her door. He sat down with his back against the wall. I'm going to sit right here for a while, okay? You don't have to open the door or talk. But I'm here if you need me. He heard her moving inside, heard the bed creak as she sat. Long minutes passed. Finally, her door opened. Tori sat on the floor on her side, Jackson on his side of the threshold, the doorway between them. I thought I was going to die in that trailer, she said quietly. I really did. I was so cold I couldn't feel my hands anymore. I couldn't scream because my throat was frozen, and I remember thinking, this is how it ends, alone in the dark, and nobody will ever know what happened to me. But it didn't end that way. You survived. You're here. Sometimes I think it would have been easier if I hadn't. If you guys hadn't found me. I'm glad we did. Why? I'm just more trouble. Another broken foster kid who'll probably mess up your life. You're not trouble. You're a person who's been through trauma and needs time to heal. That's not the same thing. Tori pulled her knees to her chest. I don't know how to do this. Do what? Live like a normal person. I don't know how to trust people. I don't know how to accept help without waiting for the price. I don't know how to believe that this is real and not just another setup for disappointment. Then we'll figure it out together, one day at a time. They sat there for another hour, sometimes talking, sometimes in silence. Eventually, Tori stood. I'm tired. Get some rest. I'll be right across the hall if you need me. Jackson, thank you for not leaving. I gave you my word. Wednesday brought Tori's second therapy session. This time, she seemed less resistant. When she came out, Dr. Price asked to speak with Jackson briefly. Tori's making progress, the therapist said. She's beginning to process the trauma, which is why the nightmares are worse right now. Her brain is finally feeling safe enough to confront what happened. It's going to get harder before it gets easier. What can I do to help? Keep being consistent. Keep being patient. And prepare yourself. She's going to test you. She needs to know you won't abandon her when things get difficult. Dr. Price was right. On Thursday, Jackson came home from running errands to find the kitchen in disarray. Cabinet doors open, food pulled out, dishes in the sink. Tori was sitting at the table, arms crossed, defiant expression on her face. "What happened here?" Jackson asked calmly. "I was hungry." "Okay. Did you find something to eat?" "No." "Why not?" "Because I wanted to see if you'd get mad, if you'd yell at me like they did at the group home when we made messes." Jackson nodded, understanding immediately. This was the test Dr. Price had warned him about. "I'm not mad," he said evenly. "I'm going to clean this up, and then I'm going to make you something to eat. Next time you're hungry, just tell me." He saw the confusion flicker across her face, followed by frustration. "That's it? You're not going to punish me? For being hungry? No. For testing boundaries? Also no, you need to know I'm not going to explode or abandon you when you make mistakes. So here's your answer. I'm staying, even when things are hard." Tori's defiance crumbled. She started to cry. "I don't know why I did that. Because you needed to know if I was safe. Now you know." He made her a sandwich while she helped clean up the mess. They ate together in silence, but something had shifted, a small crack in her armor. By the third week, Tori was beginning to relax incrementally. She started joining Jackson in the living room to watch television. She asked about his work. She even smiled once when Tank stopped by with cookies his neighbor had made. The Iron Brotherhood became a regular presence, not overwhelming but consistent. Tank would drop off medical supplies and check on Tori's prenatal health. Vincent taught her basic car maintenance in the driveway. Patricia took her shopping for maternity clothes that actually fit. Kyle brought her books from his school's library. Tori began to understand what Jackson had meant about family. On Thanksgiving, the entire club gathered at Jackson's house for dinner. Tori was nervous about the crowd, but the men were respectful of her space, and their easy camaraderie made her feel included rather than scrutinized. "This is the first Thanksgiving I've had in years where I wasn't in a group home cafeteria," Tori said quietly to Jackson as they cleaned up afterward. "First of many," he promised. That night, Tori knocked on Jackson's door. When he opened it, she stood there looking uncertain. "Can we talk?" They sat in the living room. Tori took a deep breath. "I've been thinking about the baby, about what happens after it's born. Dr. Price says I need to start making plans. What do you want?" "I want to keep it. But I don't know how to be a mom. What if I'm terrible at it? What if I hurt the baby like I was hurt?" Breaking cycles of abuse is hard, but not impossible. You're already aware of the patterns, which means you can choose differently. And you won't be alone. You'll have support. From you, from all of us. For as long as you need. Tori wiped her eyes. "I've been trying to think of names. For the baby. Dr. Price said it might help me bond with it. Have you picked any? If it's a girl, maybe Hope, because finding you gave me hope. Is that stupid? It's perfect. And if it's a boy, maybe Mason. I just like how it sounds. Hope or Mason. Both good choices." Tori smiled, a real, genuine smile. "Thanks, Jackson, for everything." As December arrived, Tori started preparing to return to school after winter break. Jackson enrolled her at Littleton High School, which had excellent special services for pregnant teens and students who'd experienced trauma. Detective Mitchell called with an update. Derek Sutton had pleaded guilty to trafficking, kidnapping, and attempted murder. He'd been sentenced to 35 years without parole. Richard Patterson, the group home counselor, had been arrested and charged with multiple counts of sexual assault against minors. 3 other girls had come forward. "You did that?" Jackson told Tori when he shared the news. By being brave enough to tell the truth, you protected other girls. Good, Tori said fiercely. He deserves worse. He does. But he's being held accountable, and that matters. Christmas approached, and Jackson asked Tori what she wanted. I don't need anything. You've already given me everything. Humor me. One thing you've always wanted. She thought for a long time. A camera. I used to take pictures on my phone before it got stolen. I liked it. Christmas morning, Tori opened a package containing a professional-grade digital camera with extra lenses and a photography basics book. Jackson, this is too much. It's an investment. You've got talent and interest. Develop it. She spent the rest of the day taking pictures of everything. The house, the backyard, Tank and Vincent when they stopped by, Jackson working in his garage. Through the lens, she was learning to see the world differently, not as a threat, but as something beautiful worth capturing. By January, Tori was visibly pregnant. She was self-conscious about it at first. But Patricia helped her find clothes that were both comfortable and made her feel confident. School started after winter break. Jackson drove Tori on her first day, watching her walk into the building with her new backpack and camera hanging around her neck. She texted him 3 hours later. It's okay. Made a friend in photography class. Jackson smiled. Progress. February brought both challenges and triumphs. Tori was adjusting to school, though she still had difficult days where the trauma felt overwhelming. She'd made friends in photography class, Jade and Christina, 2 girls who accepted her without judgment. They ate lunch together, worked on projects, and gave Tori something she'd never had, normal teenage friendship. Her therapy sessions with Dr. Price continued weekly, and Jackson could see the subtle changes. Tori was sleeping better. She laughed more often. She'd started referring to the house as home without self-consciousness. The baby was growing. Tori was now 28 weeks pregnant, and the reality of impending motherhood was becoming tangible. Patricia had organized a small baby shower with the Iron Brotherhood wives and girlfriends, creating a support network of women Tori could turn to. We've all been there, Patricia told her. Scared, uncertain, wondering if we're capable. You'll figure it out. And we'll help. The nursery began taking shape in the corner of Tori's room. Jackson built a crib with Tank's help, while Tori painted a mural on the wall, a mountain landscape at sunset, representing both Colorado and new beginnings. In March, Rachel Brennan completed the final home study for long-term foster certification. I'm approving permanent placement, she told Jackson and Tori during a home visit. Jackson, you've exceeded every expectation. Tori, you've made remarkable progress. I don't say this often, but this placement works. After Rachel left, Tori turned to Jackson. Does this mean you're stuck with me? Means we're stuck with each other. That okay with you? Yeah, it's okay. April brought an ultrasound appointment. Jackson drove Tori to the clinic, and when she asked if he'd come into the exam room with her, he felt honored. The technician spread gel on Tori's stomach and moved the wand across her skin. The monitor filled with grainy images. There's your baby, the technician said. Heart looks strong. Growth is good. Want to know the sex? Tori grabbed Jackson's hand. Yes, it's a girl. Congratulations. Tori started crying. Hope. Her name is Hope. Jackson squeezed her hand, his own eyes damp. Perfect. The technician printed ultrasound pictures, and Tori clutched them all the way home. That evening, she showed them to Tank and Vincent when they stopped by. Hope Mason Mercer Henderson, Tori announced, using both our last names. If that's okay with you, Jackson. More than okay. Vincent raised his coffee cup. To Hope and to family. In May, as Tori's due date approached, Jackson noticed she was becoming quieter, more withdrawn. Talk to me, he said one evening after dinner. What's going on? I'm scared, Tori admitted. About labor, about being responsible for a whole person. about messing everything up. Those are all normal fears. But what if I'm not normal? What if the trauma broke something in me and I can't love her the way I should? Jackson sat beside her on the couch. Love isn't something you're born knowing how to do perfectly. You learn it. And trauma doesn't break your capacity to love. It just makes you more careful about who you give it to. That baby is going to be so loved, Tori. By you, by me, by this whole crazy extended family we've built. Promise? I promise. Memorial Day weekend, Tori went into labor at 38 weeks. Jackson drove her to St. Anthony's, the same hospital where this journey had begun 6 months earlier, with Patricia in the back seat, talking her through contractions. Labor was long and difficult. Tori was terrified, gripping Jackson's hand so hard she left marks. Patricia stayed by her side, coaching her through breathing techniques. Tank waited in the hall with Vincent and the rest of the club, ready to provide whatever support was needed. After 14 hours, at 3:47 a.m. on May 27th, Hope Mason Mercer Henderson entered the world, weighing 6 pounds, 4 ounces, with a shock of dark hair and lungs that proclaimed her arrival with authority. The nurse placed the baby on Tori's chest. Tori looked down at her daughter with wonder and terror in equal measure. "She's so small," Tori whispered. "She's perfect," Jackson said, standing beside them. "And so are you. You did it, Tori." Tears streamed down Tori's face as she touched Hope's tiny fingers. "Hi, baby. I'm your mum. I don't know what I'm doing yet, but I promise I'm going to try my best." Hope opened her eyes, dark and unfocused, and seemed to look right at Tori. Something shifted in the room, an invisible bond forming between mother and daughter. "I love you," Tori said, surprised by the fierceness of the emotion. "I love you so much." Patricia wiped her own eyes. "Natural instinct. See? You've got this." When the nurses took Hope to be cleaned and checked, Tori looked at Jackson with exhaustion and joy mixed together. "Thank you," she said, "for everything, for not giving up on me. You made it easy. You did the hard work. We did it together." The Iron Brotherhood filed in later that morning to meet Hope. These tough, scarred veterans, men who'd seen combat and violence, turned into gentle giants around the tiny baby. Tank checked her over with professional thoroughness and declared her healthy. Vincent took pictures. Kyle brought flowers. Raymond had built a wooden cradle. "Welcome to the family, Hope," each of them said in turn. 3 days later, Jackson drove Tori and Hope home from the hospital. As they pulled into the driveway, Tori stared at the house. "I was so scared the first time I came here," she said. "I didn't believe it could be real, that someone would actually care. And now? Now I know it's real. And I'm home." Inside, the house had been transformed by Patricia and the other wives. The nursery was fully stocked. The refrigerator was filled with prepared meals. A schedule for support visits had been posted on the fridge, people offering to help with night feedings, doctor appointments, or just giving Tori a break. The first weeks were exhausting. Hope woke every 2 hours to feed. Tori was overwhelmed and sleep-deprived. Jackson took the midnight shift when he could, walking Hope around the house while Tori slept. "You don't have to do this," Tori told him one night at 2 a.m. when he'd gotten up to help. "She's my responsibility. She's our family. We take care of family." By June, they'd found a rhythm. Tori was a natural mother despite her fears, attentive, gentle, and fiercely protective. She took thousands of pictures of Hope with her camera, documenting every tiny change. She'd also started a blog, anonymously sharing her story of survival, healing, and unexpected motherhood. It gained followers quickly, other trafficking survivors and foster youth reaching out to say they felt less alone. "I want to help people the way you helped me," Tori explained when Jackson discovered the blog. "Let them know it's possible to survive and build something good. I'm proud of you." In July, Detective Mitchell visited. Derek Sutton's trafficking ring had been fully dismantled, with 23 victims recovered and 8 additional arrests made. "Your testimony was crucial," the detective told Tori. "You saved lives." "Good," Tori said, holding hope. "He destroyed so many. I'm glad he can't hurt anyone else." After the detective left, Tori sat with Jackson on the back porch, Hope sleeping in her arms. "Do you ever think about that day?" she asked. "When you found me in the trailer?" "Every day. I was so close to giving up. Another hour, maybe less, and I would have been gone. But then I heard the motorcycles, and I thought, if I can just make noise, if someone can just hear me, maybe I have a chance. So I pounded on that metal until my hands bled. And you heard me. Best sound I ever heard. I used to think I was cursed, that bad things followed me everywhere. But maybe I was just waiting to find the right people, the ones who would show up when it mattered." Jackson looked at his family. This girl who'd become his daughter, this baby who'd brought joy back into a house that had been empty too long. "I thought my life was over when Melissa died," he said quietly. "Thought the best parts were behind me. But then I found you and realized maybe there were still chapters to write, good ones." "We saved each other," Tori said. "Yeah, we did." Hope stirred in Tori's arms, making soft baby noises. Tori smiled down at her daughter. "What do you think, Hope? Ready to grow up with the strangest, most wonderful family in Colorado?" The baby yawned, utterly unconcerned with the dramatic circumstances of her arrival into the world. August brought Tori's 17th birthday. The Iron Brotherhood threw her a party at Tank's house, burgers, cake, presents, and the comfortable chaos of people who genuinely cared. "Make a wish," Jackson said as Tori stood before her birthday cake, Hope perched on her hip. Tori looked around at the faces gathered, Jackson, Tank, Vincent, Patricia, Kyle, Raymond, all the others who'd become family. She looked at her daughter. She looked at her life, rebuilt from ashes. "I don't need to," she said. "Everything I wished for already came true." September approached, bringing the start of Tori's senior year. She'd been nervous about returning to school with a baby, but Littleton High's childcare program meant Hope could be on site while Tori attended classes. "I'm going to graduate," Tori said with determination. "I'm going to show Hope that you don't let circumstances define your future." "You're going to be amazing," Jackson assured her. The first day of school, Jackson took pictures of Tori with her backpack and Hope in her carrier. Tori's smile was bright and genuine, the smile of someone who'd found her footing. "Thank you," she said again, "for believing in me before I believed in myself." "That's what dads do." Tori's eyes widened. "Is that what you are, my dad?" Jackson felt emotion swell in his chest. "If you want me to be." "I do. You're the only real dad I've ever had." They hugged there in the driveway. Hope nestled between them, and Jackson felt a sense of peace he hadn't experienced since before Melissa died. He couldn't bring his daughter back, but he could honor her memory by being present for Tori and Hope. The months continued. Tori excelled in school, particularly in photography. She won a regional competition with a series of photos documenting her journey from trauma to healing, powerful images that told her story without words. She was offered a scholarship to the University of Colorado's photography program, conditional on graduation. "I'm going to accept it," she told Jackson. "I want to build a career, show Hope that anything is possible." "You should. I'll help with childcare. We'll make it work." Hope grew and thrived, a happy baby surrounded by love. She had Tori's dark hair and a smile that made grown bikers melt. The Iron Brotherhood spoiled her relentlessly. In December, nearly a year after Tori's rescue, Rachel Brennan made her final visit. "I'm closing your case," she told them. "Tori ages out of the system in a few months anyway, but I wanted you to know that this placement has been one of the most successful I've overseen. You two created something special here." After Rachel left, Tori turned to Jackson. "What happens when I age out? Do I have to leave?" "Leave? This is your home, for as long as you want it to be. Beyond aging out, beyond graduation, beyond college, your family, Tori, that doesn't have an expiration date. Even with Hope, even when she's older and louder and needs more, especially then." Tori hugged him fiercely. "I love you, Dad. I love you too, kiddo." Christmas that year was magical. Hope's first Christmas, Tori's first Christmas truly feeling secure, Jackson's first Christmas without the crushing weight of grief. They took pictures in front of the tree, Jackson, Tori and Hope, with Tank and Vincent photobombing in the background. A family by choice rather than blood, but family nonetheless. New Year's Eve. As they watched the countdown on television with Hope asleep between them, Tori reflected on the year. 12 months ago, I was locked in a freezing trailer, certain I was going to die. Now I'm here, with my daughter, with you, with a future. It's insane how fast life can change. "Change works both ways," Jackson said. "It can destroy you or it can save you. You chose to let it save you." "We chose," Tori corrected, "together." As midnight struck and fireworks lit up the television screen, Jackson thought about the journey. A desperate cry in a parking lot, a door opened, a promise kept, a family built from broken pieces. Melissa would have liked Tori, he thought. Would have loved Hope. Would have been proud of him for not staying buried in grief. And maybe, in some way he couldn't quite explain, this was all part of something larger, a pattern of loss and redemption, of endings creating space for new beginnings. "To new chapters," Jackson said, raising his glass of sparkling cider. "To family," Tori added, clinking her glass against his. "To hope," they said together, looking at the sleeping baby between them. Hope Mason Mercer Henderson, named for the thing that had saved them both. Outside, the real fireworks began. The neighborhood celebration of another year survived, another year ahead. Inside Jackson's house, 3 people who'd been strangers a year ago sat together, bound by circumstance and choice and love. The road ahead wouldn't be perfect. Tori still had trauma to process. Jackson still had moments of grief. Hope would grow up with questions about her unconventional family. There would be challenges and setbacks and hard days, but they would face them together. Because that was what family did. And sometimes, the family you chose was stronger than the family you were born into. Sometimes, the most desperate cry for help led to the most beautiful rescue. Sometimes, hope was enough to rebuild a life from nothing. Jackson looked at his girls and smiled. They had been found in the darkness, and together they had learned to live in the light. 3 years later, Tori adjusted her graduation cap, checking her reflection one last time. The University of Colorado Denver graduation gown hung perfectly, and pinned to her chest was her academic honors cord, summa cum laude in photojournalism. "Mama, hurry!" Hope called from the hallway. At 3 years old, she was all energy and curiosity, with Jackson's steady temperament and Tori's creativity. "Come in, baby." Tori grabbed her camera. She never went anywhere without it now, and headed to the living room where her family waited. Jackson stood there in his best suit, looking proud. Beside him, Tank and Vincent had cleaned up nicely. Patricia held a bouquet of flowers. The entire Iron Brotherhood had gathered to watch Tori walk across that stage. "You ready?" Jackson asked. "So ready." At the ceremony, Tori walked across the stage to thunderous applause from her section. The Iron Brotherhood made sure of that. She accepted her diploma, looked out at her family, and felt overwhelming gratitude. After the ceremony, Hope ran to her. "Mama, you did it." "We did it, baby. All of us." Tori's blog had evolved into a non-profit organization, Hope's Light, dedicated to helping trafficking survivors and foster youth. She'd been offered a position as a photojournalist for a national magazine focusing on social justice issues. "I want to tell stories that matter," she told Jackson when the offer came. "Use my camera to give voices to people who aren't heard." "Melissa would have loved that," Jackson had replied. "She wanted to save animals. You're saving people." Both important missions. Now, surrounded by her family in the parking lot of the convention center, Tori felt the weight of how far she'd come. From a freezing trailer to a college graduation, from a terrified girl to a mother and professional, from believing she was worthless to knowing she mattered. "Speech!" Vincent called out. "Come on, graduate, say something profound." Tori laughed, then grew serious. She looked at Jackson. "I spent my childhood believing nobody cared whether I lived or died, that I was disposable. Then one day I heard motorcycles, and a man heard me pounding on metal, and instead of driving away, he stopped. He opened the door. He kept his promise, and he changed everything." Jackson's eyes were damp. "You did the hard work. You gave me the chance to do it." Tori turned to the rest of the group. "All of you, you showed me what family actually means, not obligation or biology, but choice. Showing up, being present, loving someone even when they're difficult and scared and broken." "You were never broken," Tank said gently. "Just hurt. There's a difference. Either way, you helped me heal. So thank you for being my family when I had none, for being Hope's village, for proving that good people exist." Patricia wiped her eyes. "Okay, enough tears. Let's celebrate. Dinner's on us." They went to Tori's favorite restaurant, a boisterous celebration full of laughter, stories, and hope, charming everyone with her constant chatter. She was already showing signs of inheriting Tori's artistic eye, always pointing out interesting patterns and colors. "She's going to be something special," Vincent observed, watching Hope draw on a napkin. "She already is," Tori said. Later, after everyone had gone home, Jackson and Tori sat on the back porch while Hope played in the yard. The Colorado sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and pink. "What are you thinking?" Jackson asked. "About that day, November 26th. How close I came to not being here. And how everything good in my life, everything stems from you hearing me. From you not giving up. You know what I think about?" "What?" "How that was the day my life started making sense again. After Melissa, after all that grief, I didn't know what my purpose was anymore. Then I found you, and suddenly I understood. My purpose was exactly what it had always been, being a father, just to a different daughter." Tori rested her head on his shoulder. "Best decision I ever made was trusting you. Best decision I ever made was keeping my promise." Hope ran over holding a dandelion. "Make a wish, Mama." Tori took the dandelion, but didn't blow. "I used to wish for safety, for someone to care, for a place to belong, but I don't need to wish for those things anymore." "Why not?" Hope asked, her young face curious. "Because I already have them. So instead I'll wish for other people who are scared and alone, that they find their Jackson, their family, their hope." She blew the dandelion seeds into the Colorado wind, watching them scatter across the darkening sky. Hope clapped her hands. "The wish came true." "Not yet, baby, but it will. For someone, somewhere, it will." Jackson watched the seeds drift away, carrying Tori's wish to whoever needed it. And he thought about the improbable chain of events that had brought them here. A fundraising ride, a rest stop, a sound in the silence, a door opened, a promise kept. Such small things individually. Together, they'd saved 2 lives and created a family. "Come on," Jackson said, standing and offering his hands to his girls. "Let's go inside. It's getting cold." "Just like that day," Tori said. "Yeah, but this time you're not alone in it." "Never again," Tori agreed. They walked inside together, father, daughter, and granddaughter, their shadows long in the porch light. Behind them, the door closed on the cold, leaving only warmth and safety within. The most shocking cry for help the Iron Brotherhood had ever heard had led to the most beautiful rescue, and from that rescue had bloomed hope. Real, lasting, transformative hope. The kind that changed everything. Did this story touch your heart in some way? If so, we'd love to hear from you in the comments. Please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs to hear this message of hope and redemption, and subscribe to our channel for more inspiring true stories of courage, survival, and the power of family. Remember, you never know when your choice to stop and listen might change someone's entire world. Thank you for watching.